So this second session is going to be a deep dive into some of the research going on. And we're starting with Louise Lacey, who's a PPI representative, and she's going to be talking to us about dear brain, please talk with my stomach, don't eat. Thanks so much, Louise.
So, hi everyone, thank you Steve for having me here. My name's Lou Lacey, and I'm not going to be as professional as a lot of you with the slides, I'm afraid. So I've chosen to do prompt cards. But I'm going to be here today to talk about my own lived experience with obesity. And through that journey, you're going to probably hear about some tough subjects, an eating disorder, childhood adverse trauma, cancer, complex medical history during that as well, and quite severe adult trauma later on in life. I suffered from weight struggles from quite a young age. I remember it being as young as 5 years old, actually. And that started me off at a point of a dietitian's appointment at the age of 5 with a big red apple. I remember being that shown to me. And that image stuck in my head because it was deemed as a negative image. And it was always related to that big red apple being sort of linked to dieting. So from that stage, I've never eaten an apple to this day. And then my nan, on the other hand, would give me a jam sandwich, and that would be happy. So I would link that to, from a child, mood, food, an apple negative and dieting, and the jam sandwich. This is great. You know, I can go to my nan's, tell her a bit of a sob story, and I'd get the jam sandwich. So it was quite difficult. I grew up and still do now. I'm in a family where it's ingrained, and it's quite an old way of thinking where if you're larger, you're healthy, and the more you eat, you must be well. But the smaller you are and the slimmer you are, healthier weight, there must be something wrong with you. You must be ill. And even to this day, after having bariatric surgery, which I did have in 2018, my family don't understand portion sizes. So if we go out for a meal and I eat my normal portion, they look at me and say, "What's wrong? You're ill." And I will get that several times throughout the meal. I will get that throughout the week, and that will continue. It's just something I've had to learn psychologically to cope with. In fact, I was talking to Jim just a moment ago about my childhood and how it was ingrained in me quite from an early age. On a Sunday, we would get given a gâteau and sandwiches, and I would eat the gâteau first because I was not educated any other way. And then I would have the sandwiches until my husband, now at the age of 18, arrived on a Sunday, and he looked at me and said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm eating my tea." And he said, "I don't understand what you're doing." He said, "You're having your gâteau before your savoury." And I said, "Yeah." I had no understanding why he was questioning this. And he said, "If you went to a restaurant, would you order a main meal first or your dessert?" I said, "Well, a main meal." And he said, "Well, why are you doing that?" And that was a moment of, I think, quite severe realization. Yeah, I've been doing this my whole life. I don't know any different. So we do joke about the gâteau moment. During my teenage years, I developed bulimia, and that did go on unnoticed into my 20s, just before I started getting treatment to become pregnant. I'd been diagnosed at that point with polycystic ovaries. I'd been diagnosed with adenomyosis and endometriosis in quite a severe way. This was just after having it's quite triggering, but quite a severe sexual trauma attack whilst working undercover for the police. I was put in quite a bad way, and this did not help with my mental health and weight gain. I did try several diets: Slimming World, Weight Watchers, Slim Fast, a toast diet that myself and my friend invented and passed out from. The pineapple diet, we won't go into that. And then came Orlistat. Yes, for a year I was prescribed that with no monitoring. There was no monitoring my weight, my blood pressure. No one asked me even if I was losing weight. But I did get the side effects. We won't talk about those. And then came 2014, at the age of 33, I was diagnosed with womb cancer. I was in a terrible state. I've been told all along that I was, as Demetrius used, severely, badly obese or morbidly obese throughout the entire time. And at that point, I remember it just bouncing around my head. This is your fault. This is my doing. You're to blame. You've done this. It was quite impactful. And I remember feeling I wouldn't be here for my children. I need action now. But where would I get that? And then I entered the bariatric system where I actually met I don't know if he's in this, he just walked in. I don't know if he's in this room, and you'll never know this, but Dimitri, you're not going to be aware of the impact you had on me that day. And I want to take this time to thank you from the bottom of my heart. The day I walked into that clinic, you, with your talk one moment ago, when you mentioned a lot of those things, you were the one that turned my life around, and you told me that it wasn't my fault. There was a lot of factors to this, and it was from that my journey started to here. I walked in that clinic that day with idiopathic intracranial hypertension, and I'd nearly lost my life several times. And you explained to me for the first time in my life the link between all these medical conditions I had, which was actually an A4 list, the link between that, obesity, and what I was going through. And we decided to plan bariatric surgery. I'd had it explained to me for the first time, but you used weight appropriate language. I'd never had that. I was now 34. I was uneducated in food. And you said to me, one requirement is to go on a food and mood course. This is where Karen Pullman comes in, another person I want to thank that changed my life. I entered that, again, another awful time in my life. My dad was in intensive care in Torbay, but I was committed because of Dimitri. And I went to that every week. I came back from Torbay and I travelled because I knew how important this was. I didn't realise at that point how uneducated I had been at all. You know, the gateau, the jam sandwich, all of that, until I was shown it. And this came in the form of learning labels behind foods. I didn't know, unbeknownst to me, the sugar content, the saturated fat. I was totally uneducated. It was a light bulb moment, and it was a smack in the face. We were taught exercise, and when they said exercise, I remember the visual came to me. Oh no, they're going to get us doing jumping jacks. I'm going to be running around here. I got to run. And they then said, no, can you sit in a chair and, you know, we could do 10 arm rests. I was like, really? They then mentioned the lamppost. Walk to the first lamppost in your street. This is achievable. By the end of those 2 months, I wasn't just exercising. I was looking at my mood, the psychology. I was looking at Pepsi Max. I was having 9 cans a day. To have this surgery, you needed to really gain back control, not just, as a lot of you have spoken about here, it's not just as simple as let's live a healthy lifestyle. This is a bigger thing. And I realized that food and mood changed my entire life. I was having 2 to 3 cakes a day. I had hypertension, I had cancer, idiopathic, I had sleep apnea, I had diabetes. I had the bariatric surgery. I did the work. I did the research. I changed my mindset. I can honestly say to this day now, I'm sat here. Within 2 weeks of changing my mindset, I was off blood pressure tablets after 2 weeks. I've not got sleep apnea. I'm on no machine. I've not got idiopathic intracranial hypertension, or it's not active. Cancer, I'm in remission. I was not able to move about at all. I'm now up and about and everywhere. I retrained from the police sector. I now work as a trauma therapist for free. I work with suicide prevention. This is all come about from changing my mindset, mood versus food. What affects it? What helps it? It's been an absolute journey, but a journey that I had help with, an education from Karen, from you, without even realizing it, from a whole team. And I do believe that if they were to put these food and mood courses in schools with no choice but to make it fun, engaging, I know from lived experience that would help. That would ingrain that into our young children. It would just help them realize there's other choices like I didn't have. It would help them understand there's a different side to, you know, choices and what they could take at home. I wish I had that. I didn't have that. You can make it fun. I didn't know at the age of 38 that it would be fun. And it helped my children. And my child had an eating disorder, but the opposite way. She's now healthy. She looks at food really healthily, and together we do it as a family. And I think that's what it's all about. And that's what a lot of you here have talked about today. I'm really hoping that this field is researched more, not just in the way that we can give drugs, but we have to help people change their mind and re-educate them. I was re-educated at the age of 38, and I've not moved out of the £4 bracket since, not because I'm amazing or I'm better than anyone else, but because I was provided with education and support from a team. So that's where I am today. Thank you for listening.